4 months ago, I made my latest video on Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, covering Mr. Krabs in that game and why I thought he was a low tier at the time. Now, I didn't go super in-depth into the meta in that video, mostly just covering Mr. Krabs himself. But I bring that video up because in that video, I briefly showed off my tier list. And if you look at my current one, a lot has changed since then. First off, the greedy Crabman himself has way better mobility at level 2 and 3 now, but they balanced it by having his slightly OP side B not being able to use his second and third hit on shield. Zim also received a handful of buffs, including Gur now having 40 HP. He previously had 9, but you also may have noticed something. There's 2 new guys. First off, in April, we got everybody's favorite whiny firebender, Zuko. Zuko's pretty cool. He's got pretty similar normals to the other Avatar characters in this game, but he has his own unique spin on them, including a unique sword mechanic that changes the properties of some of his moves, and he can even throw them like an item. Unfortunately, due to his pretty bad recovery and the other Avatar characters just being straight better than him, Zuko actually ended up becoming one of the least played characters in the game until fairly recently. Last month, we also got Resident Big Fucking Rhino and one of Shredder's 2 henchmen, Rocksteady. Now, at the time of this video, Rocksteady only dropped a little over a month ago, and due to his large size and the fact that we don't really know a lot about him, he's generally seen as a low tier character right now. But honestly, he's one of the most fun characters in the game, and he's got a ton of gimmicks that he can use, so I think he honestly has a lot of potential. Now, the reason I bring this all up is because even before the Krabs video, I made another video on Nick Brawl 2, expressing my grievances with the game and how it could improve for the future. But, while not all of my prayers have been answered, I'm happy to report that the game is in a much healthier state than it was 8 months ago when I made that video. In fact, I've actually returned to competing as well. Of course repping my boys, the Angry Beavers.
Seaman, suck cock!
But overall, the game's future looks very promising. Uncle Iroh drops in a few months, and I can't wait to see what they are cooking with him. Iroh dropped yesterday. Oh. Now, despite being the cause of this video's existence, I'm probably not going to talk a lot about Iroh himself. Don't get me wrong, he's definitely cool. He's probably the most unique of the Avatar characters in the game already, having a T installed that's very similar to Squidward's, and overall just having a lot of great moves at his disposal. But there's not much I can honestly say about Iroh because he dropped literally a day ago. And if there's anything I know about fighting games, is that characters' entire metagames aren't built in a day. However, Iroh's early inclusion creates an even bigger question for the state of the game. You see, Iroh is the last character in Wave 1 of the DLC, being teased as far back as Halloween last year. But with Iroh randomly dropping with no fanfare and currently no public plans for a Wave 2, it does beg the question for the community. Is this all there is? Forever? Now, hang on one sec. I want to preface that this video is purely speculative. I do not work on Nick Brawl 2, much as I'd like to, and even if I did, making this video would be breaking NDA, and I get in a lot of trouble for that. However, this video is just here to discuss the possible outcomes of the future of Nick Brawl 2, and even the series in general, all from my experiences as a tournament organizer, a player, and above all else, a community member. So let's get into it. I think the most realistic expectation for an upcoming final patch is a balance patch. Something that would fine-tune the more busted characters in the game, you know, the guys up here. I mentioned Zim before and how Gur's health buff made him go from easy to kill to really difficult to kill, but he's also got a nasty amount of infinites that are banned from tournament play. Cora's an even bigger problem, but she might be the best character in the game right now. She just kinda does it all, and she can jump up where it's strong there and pretty much snipe you from anywhere on the stage. There's other stuff that has to be handled too, like Jimmy having the life expectancy of a Republican politician and Gerald's projectiles being extremely claustrophobic to deal with. Hell, not even my character is safe from being busted, with Daggett being able to combo into a touch of death from pretty much anything. And Norb does the same thing, but spicier. Some buffs and quality of life changes to the lower tier characters would also be greatly appreciated, such as Nigel, who's widely considered to be the worst character in the game. And of course, releasing so early, Iroh is allegedly finished, so a balance patch existing to also tone him down a little bit wouldn't be unreasonable at all. Iroh actually did release with some balance changes for other characters, but these were mostly quality of life changes or minor changes, save for a presumably accidental SpongeBob buff, though NASB 2 patch notes have been infamous for not telling the truth before. The Iroh patch also came with a brand new stage list, with a lot of tournament legal stages having their layouts completely changed. There's also a completely new stage called Timeless Star Dial, which is entirely original to Nick Brawl 2. The stage is laggy and causes frame drops. So in general, it'd be cool to see a fix for this stage too, because honestly it's also very gorgeous. So that's why I'm honestly gambling on 1 or 2 more balance patches. But there's another reason I've been gambling on a balance patch, and it's been a reason that I've been avoiding for most of this video now. One that will probably disappoint a large amount of people who want a Wave 2 DLC for this game. The development team of Nick All-Star Brawl 2 is a skeleton crew at this point. Now, this is not something I pulled out of my ass. This is straight up confirmed by some of the beta testers for the game that the crew of NASB 2 is very low at this point. This is largely why Iroh was released in such an unfinished state and why Cora is the way she is right now, because her lead designer is no longer working on the game. Now, these decisions are primarily the fault of the game's publisher, Game Mill Entertainment, publisher of such hits as Country Dance for the Wii and Big Rigs Over-the-Road Racing. I guess some publishers never learn. Even the crew's lead combat designer, Simon Yotabori, is no longer on the game anymore. On Twitter, no, I'm not calling it X, you can't make me, he expressed his experience with being let go, saying that while the team was being too ambitious for a project at this scale, he still found it odd that GameMill simply said that they didn't have any work for him at the time. It seems like the player base wasn't what GameMill was anticipating for NASB 2, and as a result they laid off a lot of their staff, as well as reducing the server cap, probably as a cost-effective measure. This is also probably why Iroh's release date was so sudden, as GameMill has been rushing the devs out the door to make these patches as soon as possible, even though Iroh wasn't planned until at least Halloween. And you know, Fair Play Labs isn't perfect, they've definitely made some questionable decisions on this game, but maintaining a game while your publisher strips you of all your time and resources is next to impossible. It doesn't matter how popular the game is or the characters are. If you got no resources, you can't maintain the game, and that's just facts. But that brings us to our final point. Nick could always contract Fair Play again for a hypothetical NASB 3, but then I have to ask you a very important question. Do you even want NASB 3? NASB 2 isn't perfect, I've made that very clear in the past. But to be honest, the first game wasn't either, and I absolutely adore that game. Yeah, these games aren't perfect, they're riddled with bugs, the game is horribly unbalanced, yada yada yada. But the fact that they made a game this mechanically sound out of a game that was intended to just be another shovelware title to add to Nickelodeon's massive empire is genuinely amazing and should be celebrated. And that's just on the gameplay side of things. This might be the last time I see the Angry Beavers or El Tigre in anything ever again, and they nailed their personalities and movesets in this game. And for a platform fighter, the campaign mode is genuinely amazing and high effort, even being better in that regard to the game that a lot of people say this one will never live up to. But the reason I say all that is because making Nick Brawl 3 would kind of undermine Nick Brawl 2. The thing that I find most scary about making a Nick Brawl 3 is that I have no idea what it would look like. It could look like this, it could look like this, it could even look like this. And that's pretty much the main reason why I don't want another NASB. At the very least, not for the next few years. The rush cycle of events that has plagued this game is truly unfortunate. Because at its core, this is genuinely a great game with a lot of effort and care put into it. And personally, if these games didn't fit that description, I wouldn't have sunk as many hours into them as I have already. Honestly, at the end of the day, all I want for NASB 2 is just another balance patch. The game's player base is small, but really active, like in the description. Because even through the glitches and the shitty balance and what have you about this game, the devs succeed in making a game that not only meets the expectations of what the sequel should be, but exceeds them. Making a game that's not only visually impressive for a Nickelodeon game, but also just really damn fun. Even if the game gets absolutely nothing after the Iroh patch. Even if the game stays as glitchy as unbalanced as it is right now, Nick Brawl 2 will still live on from its player base, no matter how small it may be, being a genuinely great game that had way more effort put into it than it ever required. In closing, even though it seems like the sun is setting on Nick Brawl 2's development, it'll live on in the hearts of the fans who love it forever. And with that, I'm Dilly, also known as Sizzly, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.